Kia ora koutou. This video is going to go through the two excellence parts of question 1 in the 2021 probability concepts exam. So it really makes sense to have just done 1A, B and C before you do this one. Question D, or part D, is not too bad at all. It's just really wordy. So here it is here. And then in part E, it's also not too bad. There's just a little bit of algebra. What I am going to do first, though, in case there's anyone watching who is kind of borderline merit excellence, and you're still a little bit wobbly on conditional probability, I'm just going to go through that once. So just forward through this, but if you are watching and you're like, yep, I totally know that already. What we're saying when we do a conditional probability is, given that B has happened, right, what are the chances that A is going to happen? So you can think of it as the only outcomes you're interested in are the ones where you know that B is happening, and then you're asking what the chances are that A happens. And if you think about that, what we're saying is we're restricting the outcomes to just those ones where B has happened. So we're saying out of the ones where B happens, what are the chances that we get A? So we're working out the probability of A and B divided by the probability of B. And that comes up, that's already come up in this question, but it comes up in, I think, both of these last two. So I just wanted to refresh it before we get started. The other thing that's worth doing is just putting down the tree diagram for what we had before. Remember, we've got two kinds of ticket type. We've got early bird and general admission, and then we've got adult and child for each of those. And the adult and child numbers depend on whether it was early bird or general admission. So 3/4, 1/4, and then 2/3, 1/3. The early bird tickets were much more common to start with. We had 4/5 of tickets sold as general admission and only 1/5 as early bird. And that's what part D is all about. So let's make that a bit bigger. I want you to pause the video and try and do this on your own first. Okay, so the organisers have decided to increase the price for general admission tickets compared to early bird tickets because they want to get people buying their tickets early. Useful note, the relative proportions of adult and child tickets sold are expected to remain the same for each ticket type. So that means that over here, these numbers are not going to change. Right, if increasing the price of the general admission tickets in 2022 reduces the proportion of all tickets purchased as general admission type to 1/2 of the original 2021 proportion, comment on the effect of this change on the proportion of adult tickets that are sold as early bird type. Well, what have we got? Well, just intuitively, the only number that we're changing in that tree is going to be this one here. And this is going to go down to 2/5, right? And that means that this number is going to change to be the difference between 1 and 2/5. So suddenly only 40% or 2/5 are going to be general admission type, and 3/5 are going to be early bird type. So you can see, kind of without even doing much maths, what's happened to the early bird proportion. Well, the early bird proportion has gone from 1/5 to 3/5. So that's gone up by, it's multiplied by 3, right? And that's where we're going to end up once we've worked through all the maths. Because these numbers aren't changing, the answer that we're going to get is we're going to see a 3-fold increase or a 3 times increase. But we better do some work to show that. So let's have a look now. We have to comment on the effect of the change on the proportion of adult tickets that are sold as early bird types. So what I want to do is, before we had probability, given that it's an adult ticket. So in 2021, we worked out in part C, I think, that it was 0.2195. Right, so it's not going to be exactly 3 times. Let's see what's going on. But it's going to be roughly 3 times as big when we get to the end of this. But let's just work through the maths and see where we get to. What we're going to have this time is, in 2022, probably that we've got early bird, given that we've got an adult ticket, is equal to, right, the probability of early bird, given that it's an adult, this one times this one gives me 9/20. This one, we might as well do all of them. That gives me 3/20. This gives me 4/15 here and 2/15 here. So the numbers that I want to be adding up for my denominator are the adult numbers. So this one and this one. And in the numerator, we're just going to have the probability of EB and adults. So up here we get 9/20, which is 0.45, and the denominator has 0.45 plus whatever 4/15 is as a decimal. Working all of that out gives me 0.6278. It used to be 0.2195. So you could call that, if you want to, let's call that 62.8%, and this one is going to be 22.0%. So the proportion of adult tickets that are now early bird are massively higher, significantly or massive, hugely, or something like that. Now, I just want to have a look at why it's not exactly 3 times, because I said that at the start, but that wasn't quite right. And the reason it's not quite right is when you think about it, on the second bit of the tree, when you've got early bird tickets, we've been told that the proportion of those are adult tickets is 3/4, right? And that's slightly higher than the 2/3 number here for the general admission tickets, right? And so the reason that we don't have an exactly 3 times increase is because these two numbers here are not exactly the same. So you get a little bit of different weighting going on. You don't need to write anything about that at all to get excellence, okay? All you need to do is what I just did, change your tree, work out the conditional probability, and then you must make a comment in context because that's what you were asked to do. Okay, let's look at the second part, which if you've got that first part in D, this kind of sets your brain up to do this part right. An aim for the 2022 festival is to increase the proportion of all child tickets that were early bird type to 30%. So calculate the overall proportion of tickets that would need to be sold as early bird to increase the proportion of child tickets to 30%. So again, we are not mucking around with the second numbers. We just want to work out what fraction we'd have to have. So let's have a look here. Here's a nice clean one. Well, we don't know what these numbers are. We'll put P on here and 1 minus P here for general admission. We've got 2/3 here and 1/3 here and 3/4 here and 1/4. Adult, child, adult, and child. The goal is to get 30% of all child tickets to be early bird ones. So what do we have to do? What proportion have to be early bird overall for that to happen? Well, the probability of early bird and child tickets is going to go in the top line, right? And the probability of a child ticket is going to go in the denominator. We want that number to equal 0.3, or I'll turn it into a fraction, 3/10. Right, let's think about what the probability of early bird and child is. So we've got this, early bird and child is going to be 1/4 P. And then the other part of the child tickets comes from here. It's going to be 1 minus P times 1/3. So the denominator is going to have those two numbers in it. Numerator is just early bird and child, so 1/4 P. Denominator 1/4 P plus 1/3 of 1 minus P. So we're trying to solve this equation. This probability has to equal 3/10. Now, I could do a whole lot of cleaning up on that denominator, but I'm not going to bother. The first thing that I'm going to do is just to do some Year 9 algebra and cross multiply, right? So 10 times 1/4 P is equal to 3 times all of this. And now I'm going to do some cleaning up. So on the left-hand side, I've got, I'm going to simplify that to 5 over 2p. Here, expanding out the brackets, I've got 3/4 p plus 3 times a third gives me 1, so it's going to be 1 minus p. And you can see all I've got to do is to collect up my like terms. Let's see. Well, we'll get everything with p onto this side and the numbers on this side. So we've got, I'm going pretty slowly, so 5 over 2p plus p minus 3/4 p is equal to 1. So p into, I shouldn't have simplified my fraction. Let's see. 5 over 2 is 10 over 4 plus 1 minus 3 over 4 is equal to 1. So here we've got 7 over 4 plus 1. So it's p times 11 over 4 is equal to 1, giving me a final answer of p is equal to 4 over 11. Right, so I'm just dividing both sides through here by 4/11. Okay, so that's my answer. Let's look at what we need to do to answer the question properly. What were we asked? If we go back to the question, it says calculate the overall proportion of tickets that would need to be sold as early bird tickets in order to get the proportion of all child tickets that were early bird up to 30%. So that proportion would need to be up to 4/11. So we need to say that. So the proportion of EB tickets would need to be 4/11. So there you go. If you've got any questions on that, let me know. I suspect for some people watching, you might be realising that you need to do some revision on fractions. If you're at Dub C and you want some advice about where to go, Dr. Frost is excellent for fractions and algebraic fractions, and they do pop up in excellence questions, but they usually really are going to be at about year 9 or 10 or 11 level. It's just that you might be a little bit rusty on them. Thanks for watching, and let me know if there's any exam questions that you'd like me to do next.